And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. So friends, we're continuing our journey to the 8-figure exit. Today I want to deal with specifically 8 ways to promote teamwork within your senior management team. 8 ways. You're like, Justin, I have teamwork. Perhaps. But one thing I know for certain is that the 8-figure exit will be directly influenced by your senior management team. Let me say that again. Your 8-figure exit as the business owner will be directly influenced by your senior management team. No ifs, ands, or buts. In order for you to reach your 8-figure exit, you have to have synergy. You have to be hyper efficient within the business. All departments must be marching to the same beat. Perhaps you've seen a drum line. Perhaps you were part of a band or a marching band. There's a certain cadence and a certain beat, depending on the song, that everybody is marching toward, that everybody is playing toward. And whenever one person gets out of sync, the entire ensemble struggles. The entire ensemble doesn't look the same. You can hear it. I've been to many marching band performances at football games, various things of that nature. And inevitably you can see whenever somebody drops a particular flag, or they're just slightly out of the line, or they play the wrong note. You can hear it. Pearl Zhu said, silos build the wall in people's minds and create barriers in organizations' hearts. Silos. Now, whenever I hear the word silo, my mind goes back to farming days. My mind goes back to just living in the South and seeing silos. We would often go hunting on corn farms or soybean farms or peanut farms. You'd pull up to the farmer's house and there'd be this long spherical object that would often hold the grain away from other areas. So you would walk in and you see this long object, hundreds of feet tall. And if you climb to the top of it, you could look down and be full of corn or peanuts or whatever it was they were harvesting at that particular time. And what the silo would do is they would keep just that one grain secure. Perhaps there was another silo beside it. I was at one particular farmer's house where he had soybeans in one silo, corn in another, and green peanuts in another. 3 different silos. And you knew that each silo held and contained a particular product. In business, though, it's slightly different. Investopedia says, a siloed mentality is a reluctance to share information with employees of a different division in the same company. That's an interesting definition. I would move it a step further because it's maybe not an intentional reluctance to share information. It could be that there's a byproduct of poor processes, or there could be a byproduct of poor systems. Or it could be a lack of trust that, hey, I'm going to guard what I have. It's my baby. This is my division. But nonetheless, siloed is keeping information within a company from other areas. It's marching to the beat of your own drum. It's not marching lockstep with the rest of the team. There are many issues in companies which can create siloed thinking or siloed divisions or siloed senior management. Perhaps one is you've promoted somebody to failure. They were a great technician, and you're like, man, they can manage people. And as the company grew, they find themselves in an executive role, but yet they're not good managers in that role. They know how to be a technician, not how to be a manager. Maybe, just maybe, some of your senior management have personal liability risk and others don't. And so because of the personal liability risk, they take an arduous approach to business. Maybe it's regulatory. Often in the financial world, if you're the chief compliance officer, you have a personal regulatory liability. And as such, you have a tendency to lock things down. And by locking things down, it is detrimental or siloing to the rest of the company. Maybe, just maybe, you're a guarantor on company debt as a senior manager, and others are not. And so therefore, you're going to do things very risk adverse versus what's in the best interest of the company because of the individual liability. Maybe, just maybe, the senior manager is not pulling in the same direction. They just aren't, their vision's not the same. They have this particular vision. This is my baby and this is what I'm going to create come hell or high water. And the rest of the company is going a different direction. Now, the danger with that is it can derail an entire division within your company. Because if you have a manager who's not marching to the same beat of where the company's headed, then oftentimes the followers are following that individual to their own demise. Maybe it's an I versus we approach. I versus we. I am versus we are. Siloed management can lead to self-exaltation versus team victories. It could just be ego. It just could be ego. Just maybe you have a senior manager who is wanting to accomplish something with their life that no one else is. I've seen that many times. It could just be a result of narrow vision. Somebody's just not grasping the same vision that the CEO or the business owner is trying to drive. It could be ignorance of operations at the highest level in business. Not understanding how X influences Y, which influences Z. They just have a limited scope. There's a number of reasons why siloed mentalities within senior management happens. There are consequences, by the way, to this. At the best, it's poor communication. It's derailing goals or missing objectives. It could be that one department's out of sync with the overall vision. At worst, it's interdepartmental hostility. It's senior managers hoarding information. It's causing a destruction to the company culture. There are consequences to siloed management. So let's talk about 8 ways to foster teamwork, 8 ways to create collaboration within your company's management. Number 1 is cross-functional projects. Cross-functional projects. It's you're collecting various individuals from various departments to get their way in for a common goal. By creating cross-functional projects in your senior management, you can help to break down the silos. You can create business agility, have the business move more nimble. You can create innovation. You can improve insight and communication through cross-functional project management. Based on an article from November 2022, the Cascade Technology Company cited very interesting statistics that I think we need to listen to here, especially us as business owners. Working in silos and not sharing data with team members from other departments can cost the company close to $8,000 per day in wasteful expenses. Think about that, $8,000 per day in wasteful expenses by not collaborating as a company. Now, Northwest Mutual was cited in their study as one of the leaders in building cross-functional teams. I thought that was interesting. As a result, in 2020, during the COVID pandemic, they had record-breaking revenue. They had total surplus at record-breaking level, and they had total assets at $308.8 billion. Now, we can microanalyze where those numbers come from, especially those of us in the financial world. But nonetheless, they were cited as one of the leaders for building cross-functional teams. They face the same circumstances as every other insurance firm. Northwest Mutual is an insurance firm. They face the same circumstances that everybody else did, but how do they succeed? How do they succeed? They did this so through cross-collaboration. Another thing you can do to enhance the teamwork within your senior management is to have team building exercises. Now, I've seen these, you've seen these. Some of them are hokey. They are. We've all seen them. We've gone to shows and we've seen the 4 people lay on each other. Without teamwork, you can't do this. And all those hoorah-rah messages. Nonetheless, some of your team needs that. Some of your team needs the visual and the interactability of such an exercise. I can remember whenever I was running my company, we had a certain team members, plural, within our organization that just needed some hand-holding. They just needed some experience. So we would do an escape room as a team and see how they would do. Another thing you can do is have collaborative decision-making. Hold regular meetings with your senior managers to brainstorm solutions to problems. Regular meetings. You want to gain their respective ideas in the areas. Now, that could also be detrimental because each of us approach the company or the problem with our individual framework. And if you don't have humility as you approach that, and you have somebody who's arduous, that's speaking past their competency level, then we have problems. So it's up to the facilitator, oftentimes the CEO, in order to set the stage properly. But you can have collaborative decision-making. You can incorporate shared goals and incentives. Shared goals and incentives. Within the financial industry, we often have the compliance department, the finance department, the operations department. You may have the investing department, and you have leadership. That's not uncommon. You may have marketing department. One of the things you can do is put one goal out and have everybody speak into the goal. Now, again, the CEO, or depending on the org chart, whoever the decision maker is has to make the decision. You can't have a rule by committee. It doesn't work. There's always a head coach on the football field. There always is. There's always a president or a leader of a country. You cannot have a rule by committee. It doesn't last. But you can nonetheless incorporate shared goals and incentives. You could cultivate a culture of open communication. Open communication. None of this behind the scenes. That loose lips sink ships. Complaining is horrid. It drives me absolutely batty. If there's one thing that I cannot stand in a company that will just drive me away from the company, it's the behind the scenes. Well, she said, I don't care what she said. Do your job is what I want to say. And I'll say it to the microphone. And I have said it to the team members. I literally held a meeting one time and I opened the door. If you're not up with us, get out. But from this point forward, this is the direction we're going. Literally had that conversation because it just drives me crazy. Well, she said this. He's not doing it. Forget that nonsense. You can cultivate a culture of open communication. Tell your team. Don't assume that they know where you're going. Be open about the direction you're going. And listen. Yeah, get some feedback. But remember, the business owner is the one who sets the destination. You cannot allow your team to rob you of that. Maybe it's a board. The board sets the destination. You cannot allow the team to rob you of that. If in open communication, you can get feedback, but it doesn't mean you're going to implement it. And oftentimes people say, well, I said so, but he didn't listen to me. Well, maybe there's more at play than what that particular individual knows. That's where open communication comes into play. You meet regularly. You meet at least once a week. You keep your team informed as you demonstrate communication. Hey, that was a great, interesting insight. We're adjusting something here because of that insight. And then you hold off-site retreats. Another thing you can do is knowledge sharing. Create training sessions where you bring your team members together and allow them to train around a particular topic. Collaborative training sessions. One of the things I love, it's just me, and I wish more people grasp this, but I love continuous improvement. If you're listening to the podcast, you love continuous improvement. Perhaps you're listening to me to learn something. I hope I'm teaching you. But in order for me to teach, I have to learn. So I'm doing consistent reading and studying on things that are near and dear that I'm dealing with at that particular point. Right now, as you might imagine, I'm dealing with culture. So I'm reading books on culture. I'm reading studies on culture. How do you adjust culture? How do you handle culture through change management? I'm saturating my brain in that information. But you can have continuous improvement. Maybe you do required reading. One of the things I love to do is buy books for people. Not everybody's a reader, but if you give a book, there's no reason why somebody cannot read a book within 90 days. No reason whatsoever. You're talking just a few pages a day, if that be, or have a chapter a week. It is possible to do as long as it becomes a priority. But you can unite the team. I remember we were dealing with a cultural issue in one of my past companies, and we ended up getting various different leadership books and said, hey, we're going to read this. As a team, we're going to talk through it. So we would read the book, and we would come together the following Monday, and we'd talk through, hey, what did you glean from that? Out of this last chapter, what did you glean from that this week? Let's talk through it. And we would have ideas. We would share ideas around the concept. Finally, we need to remind our senior management that their employees, the rank and files beneath them, will mirror their behavior. More is caught than taught. More is caught than taught. Oftentimes I see managers who will go out and just say something, or say it once or say it twice, or say so much information. Well, I told them what to do. I get that, but you told them 4,000 things to do, and therefore they became sensory overload and they did nothing. There was an interesting article on cryon.com, and in the article they had a statement which I grasped on. It said, quote, managers have numerous ways to impact employees' performance through behavior modeling, constructive feedback, and performance reviews, among other methods. Think about that. Managers have a number of ways to impact employee performance. And there's a trickle-down effect that happens within managers. If we can get the managers aligned to the vision, the direction, have them speak the company line, then it will trickle down throughout their team. But oftentimes when you have infighting within the team, it's because of the manager who's over that team. And there may be some adjustments needed within that manager. Friends, there's 8 ways that you can break siloing within your company. It's hard. This is hard. Dealing with people is the hardest thing we do as business owners. There's nothing around it. My current friend, Brian, and I were talking about business in the future, and we both laughed and we said, our next business will not have any employees. Period. It's not that we don't like people. We just don't like people. I say that with the levity in my voice, and you're probably going, I get it, Justin. I get it. Our next business will not have employees. Why? Because managing people are hard. It's one of the hardest things we do. But here are 8 things that you can do to break down the siloing effect within your company. If you need help, need somebody just as an accountability partner, hey, reach out to us. We have a program that we can work with you. As a business owner, we can come alongside as a thinking partner and accountability partner for what you have to accomplish. Somebody that you can just vent to, because oftentimes we have no one to talk to as business owners. Reach out to us. We can help you. Until next time, friends, y'all go out and make it a great day.